What are your goals? What kind of life do you want to live? Where do you want to live?
Mhm.
And I would say reverse engineer from there.
So much of the conflict in relationships is finances. And so when you can find out a
hmm
win-win that both parties are happy, you can absolutely save relationships.
Talk to people. What is it like to be pregnant? What is it like to give birth? What's your story?
Getting really, really clear on what's important in the season and having no regrets, and then just live with it. Okay, I have a wonderful mom today on the show. Her name is Lauren Klein, and she's an attorney, a speaker, a life coach. She's the force the force behind Flourish Law Group and the Wealthy Lawyer Squad. Through her groundbreaking program, the Law School Success Blueprint, Lauren empowers the next generation to navigate their legal careers with confidence. And she's also she's got the blueprint launching soon, which is going to be open to propel new lawyers to successful heights. So basically teaching new lawyers how to build their businesses, how to do it the right way. Super excited for that. And now her motive extends beyond coaching. She's on a heartfelt mission to empower, hosting free estate planning workshops for single moms and ensuring no family is left vulnerable. She's a devoted mom to two boys, aged 2 and 4. And we are so excited to have you here today, Lauren. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Marina. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you're in that new phase of motherhood where it feels a little bit crazy. So this is really good timing, I feel like, to just bring the real. But I wanted to talk to you about law. How long have you been in law?
I have been practicing law now for 13 years.
Wow. Okay, incredible. I've actually got one of my best friends here. She's just about to graduate from law school this coming summer, and
Oh,
she's got a
wow.
1 year old. So she's going through law school, doing pregnancy and all of
Ooh,
it. And I'm like, you go, mama. But such a
wow.
challenging field to be in. I mean, just changing landscapes and everything that's going on in our country too for entrepreneurs and just big picture. I feel like it's an incredible time to have people like you who are voices for the people too. So for someone who is entering the legal profession, or maybe they've been in it, what is kind of a realistic expectation on how to prioritize your mental health and work-life balance? Because it's very demanding. How would you answer
Yeah.
that question?
Oh, I mean, that's a great first question. So that's something that I obviously am really, really passionate about. And I think that it's a conversation that just isn't had enough. Starting in law school, mental health stats get really, really bad. And then
Yeah.
moving into law practice, it's not much better. So I think the biggest things are, making sure that you kind of have an understanding of where you want to go. What are your goals? What kind of life do you want to live? Where do you want to live?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say reverse engineer from there. It's so easy when you go into law school to kind of get caught in, okay, this is what everyone else wants to do. Everyone else wants to go to the big law firm or government job, or, and some law schools kind of push you down a certain track. Being true to who you want to be and having kind of that autonomy over your life, I think is huge. I'm also a huge fan of morning routine, meditation, physical exercise. If you live somewhere where you can get sunshine, like we
Mm-hmm.
both do, getting outside, being in nature, even if you're taking like 20 minutes out of your morning, it is incredible
Yeah.
how much that will help you along the way. And then just making sure that you prioritize yourself, that you still stay in touch with your friends and family. It gets really hard, especially that first year of law school. It's
Yeah.
a little crazy. But remember, it's just one part of the long journey. So don't lose sight of you and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know with other professions, it's very much 9 to 5. I mean, for someone who's not in the legal atmosphere, what is it really like?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends, what industry you're in, what area of law, what type of firm. But I mean, the reality is for the 13 years that I practiced, I was in Big Four. So that was like 9 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Oh my
sometimes,
gosh.
especially in busy season. Yeah, crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. When I was at the big law firm, sometimes it was 13-hour days. There's a billable hour requirement. And now that I have my own law firm, I'm still busting it, but I'm doing it for myself. And so it
Yeah.
feels a lot better because I'm building it for me.
Hmm.
But law often equals a lot of hours. It doesn't have to, you can go a different track or you can kind of create your own, path.
Yeah.
But the reality is oftentimes you're working a lot.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I just feel like having a supportive partner or a support system is crucial in that stage, especially with young kids. How
hmm
long do you have to be in practice to start your own firm?
You can start it from day one.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I mean,
hmm
you really do have a ton of opportunities and direction you can take your career. So you just got to define what it looks like. And if it means we're working less so that we can have the young family or vice versa, and we're going to delay it, tons of potential. That's really good. So part of my job is I'm also a real estate agent. And so I feel like we have a lot in common talking about estate planning, but for the people, and I feel like most millennials and under, to be honest, it's not even on our radar to talk about estate planning. We're just not there. We're like, we're healthy, we're fine. Our parents are still around even. Kind of break it down for me. Like, what are we risking when we put this off?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the biggest myths are I'm not old enough, I don't have enough assets. Those are the things we see most often.
Yeah.
But what we're risking is, and it always depends. It depends on, what your family dynamic is. Are you married? Do you have children? Do you have a business? What assets do you have? And not that you don't need estate planning if you don't have those things. You might need something more simple and then you build on it. But I always tell people estate planning is really, it's just an extension of your financial planning. And I think that kind of takes away a lot of that like doom and gloom. But the biggest things to be concerned about are, the wrong people receiving your assets, judge deciding who's going to be guardian for your minor children if you have minor children, your assets not going to the right people, lack of asset protection and creditor protection, and probate, and it depends on what state you're in. But most of the time, probate is a really not fun situation. It's basically if you pass away and you own something in your individual name. Let's say I own a bank account. I have no joint account holders. I never named a beneficiary when I set it up because the banker forgot to tell me that was important. In order for that bank account to get to either who I've named in a will, or if I haven't named anybody, the laws of intestacy, which basically means the state that you reside in comes up with an estate plan for you. In order for that asset to get to those individuals or that individual, you have to hire a lawyer typically. It could take months, if not years, and it can get very expensive.
Yeah. And especially when you're in a season of grief or losing someone too, like you don't want to have to be dealing with that stress and the financial burden of bearing that person and all the things if those things are not in place. So absolutely crucial. What are some of the ingredients that go into estate planning for someone who doesn't know? They've never researched this yet.
Sure. So let's say, our most typical client walks in the door or hops into a Zoom meeting, 2 parents, a couple of children, business, home, bank account. Okay. Typically, they're doing and it varies from state to state, but in Florida and many other states, typically they're doing a revocable living trust. So that's a certain type of entity, if you will, where you can put assets in, you can move assets in life, or you can name a beneficiary. Let's say on a life insurance policy, you can name that trust. And then the trust is sort of like an agreement. It says, okay, if my spouse survives me, here's how he or she receives this asset outright or in a further trust. If let's say my spouse and I have both passed and it's our children, if they're under the age of 18, they cannot legally inherit. So you want them to receive assets in the trust. Yeah. But maybe you want the assets to stay in trust even when they're beyond 18. If they're 23, 25, maybe they're not yet responsible enough to receive a large sum of money or manage that money. But maybe you take it even a step further. You say, even if they're older than 25, I want it to stay in a trust. That's what I have for my boys. Stays in trust for their whole life. That way, if they get married and they get divorced, there's protection. If they get sued, they become neurosurgeons and they get sued because they're in a high-risk profession, there's protection. It also protects from estate tax. So anything that stays in that trust for my children, they never have to do any estate tax planning. And I'll touch on that very, very, very high level. In the U.S., if you're a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, you can give away or die with right now $13.61 million. So a lot of money. Yeah. But we don't know, one, we don't know what our family's net worth will be down the road. And we don't know what the laws will be down the road. So I've already set my boys up for anything that they receive from my husband and I. Yeah. They never have to worry about it as long as they keep it in a trust.
Yeah. That's super good. Hey ladies, real quick, if you are looking for a mentor, I just wanted to remind you that I offer mentorship to entrepreneurs. So if you're someone who has a never-ending to-do list and you're spiraling out of control and feel like your business doesn't have a track plan, I want to work with you every single week for a month at a time. It's super simple, but I come from over 10 years of experience doing this myself, and now I'm willing to give that information back to people. So I've mentored real estate agents, I've mentored wedding photographers, I've mentored other business owners, and they've come from a place of overwhelm mostly, and they really just needed clarity and a couple of action steps to move the needle, and we've seen gigantic leaps and bounds in their business. Like I can't even tell you. So if you're interested and you want to know what that looks like, I want you to go to marinatolentino.com. And there's a Calendly link there to do a 15-minute discovery call with me just to see if we're a good vibe check, to make sure we're on the same page. And I would love to work with you one-on-one to really boost your business to the next level. Let's dive back in. What does it cost to set up all of the planning and all the paperwork? Like ballpark.
So it depends, yeah. So I'll tell you, we're super transparent about our fees. So for a couple, that exact same scenario, they're coming in for the trust. We're also doing a will, naming, guardians for minor children. We're naming power of attorney who can make legal or financial decisions if I'm not able to do so. Healthcare. For a couple, we're $5,000 currently for a trust plan. We'll probably increase it a little bit because we provide so much. But different attorneys bill or charge in different ways. Some do hourly, some do flat fee billing like we do. There's a mix. I always tell clients, especially if they're not in Florida or if they want to work with someone maybe closer to where they live in Florida. We work with people across the state. I say, look for someone who, one, you get along with, because this is, not one and done. You're going to want to have someone who you meet with, every year, every couple of years, making sure your estate plan still works. Make sure it's someone you like and who respects you, answers your questions, doesn't act like your questions are stupid, because there's no stupid questions. And then ask them, how do you bill? What's included? Are you going to oversee my, signing and everything? What will be included in this package? And it sounds like a lot of money, but when you really think about it and you break down that investment, one, if you have a probate, it is significantly more expensive than that typically. In Florida, it can be based on the percentage of the estate. So it can get really, really pricey. Yeah. But also it's lifetime protection, it's legacy, and it's generational wealth building. And I think it's money is just perspective, it's mindset. And I think when you kind of get rid of the sticker shock and you think, wow, here's all the benefits and all the things that we all need as adults, it makes a lot more sense.
No, absolutely. That's great. And just for most of us, it's like, we don't have $5,000 sitting around, right? So maybe make it like a 2-year goal. Okay, by 2 years from now, I'm going to do this thing. And then you can just kind of like set it and forget it and it's there. But I think for a lot of us too, like just mentioning the name trust, like they're like, what is a trust? How does it work? Like I need a new bank account, like all of that. And literally it's just a new entity basically, right? Like that's how we think of it. And everything just goes into that entity now. So you're writing a check from that account instead of your personal or vice versa. Have you had, or do you have any good stories or like experiences of people who have done this and are like so grateful for it? Like, what are some of the wins you've had?
Oh yeah. Well, every time someone finishes, they do their signing ceremony. Last Friday, we had 3. I could just see the looks on their faces, like they can breathe. They're like, I've been thinking about this for how many years, and I finally got it done. And knowing that we will be there, we'll let them know if there's changes in the law. We meet with our clients every year. I think those are just like the more general wins, but the biggest wins are, if we see a single parent come in, they're like, wow, if something happens to me, I don't have a partner to rely on, or I don't want that partner involved. And knowing that they have done everything they can, to protect that child is absolutely huge as a parent. Oh yeah. Like when you're traveling, it's always in the back of your mind, like, oh, what if something happens? And that fear never goes away because, parenthood, motherhood, fatherhood, but it does really help. It really does. And then I have a really cool story. I was actually talking about this yesterday. I was on a panel talking to a room about divorce. And I was telling them I once worked on this matter. It was a postnuptial agreement. So postnup is we're married, but now we're doing that prenup planning, but after the fact. They were going to get divorced. The whole plan was divide assets, have everything ready to go after we do the postnup, and then file for divorce. But because in that process, they got clear on, okay, who's going to receive what, let's work through our money stuff. They actually ended up staying married because they worked through all of that. Wow. And the room, like yesterday, couldn't believe it. They're like, wow. And then we had a family law attorney on the panel, and she's like, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Like, it only happened one time. It was very romantic, apparently.
No, but I mean, so much of the the conflict in relationships is finances. And so when you can find out a win-win that both parties are happy, you can absolutely save relationships. If you just help broaden their perspective and like, well, actually you're getting both here. That's so good. Just good reminder. And I think what you're explaining about like the relief that you feel, it's part of the adulting that we all know we need to do it, but everybody puts it off or says like, oh, in 10 years, once I have money, then I'm going to do it. Well, like tomorrow isn't promised. And we know that. And so I just feel like it's a big part of building that like table of your nights, your round table of nights where you've got the lawyer, you've got the CPA, you've got the financial advisor. And of course, all these business people have their own incentives. Like your financial planner wants you to invest in all these things and buy whole life and like all these things. But it's like just being a smart consumer too, and not just going to one person for advice. I really feel like you need those 5 to 6 advisors to help you build wealth and keep it. I'm actually talking to a lady named Julia Myers right after you, and she helps people teach their kids how to inherit wealth without being entitled. And I think that's going to be such a good conversation. Like, okay, so we have this trust now, we pass away. How do we teach our kids how to manage the money? That's like such a big conversation.
I would love to meet her. That's actually something really cool in the trust planning. So you can say, my child received, a certain amount when they start a business for college. So this is if you're not around, of course.
Yeah.
Go to college, maybe for a wedding if you feel like that's something you would want to have the trust pay for. Sometimes we've even done provisions where we say the child can only receive up to whatever salary they've earned in that year. So if they've earned $100,000, that's the amount that they can receive from the trust up to that. Maybe they won't receive that, as ways to try to keep people motivated, beneficiaries motivated, rather than knowing, hey, I have this, this trust fund, this nest egg, I can go, just chill all day on the couch and not be a productive member of society. So I think those are the parts of the conversations where you see the light bulb go off, they're like, oh, this isn't boring. This isn't dusty. This isn't just something for my grandma. This is like something that is truly part of your financial health. And that's when it gets fun. It really does.
Yeah. And hopefully like this trust money would go a second generation and a third generation. It outlives my kids.
Right.
It's really like the big plan, but it's teaching our kids
building a legacy.
Responsible. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit into business. So you entered business with a best friend. Tell me how that's been like.
It has been the best decision, or one of the best decisions, also marrying my husband, having kids and all that too, but all that stuff. But we just, we are having the greatest time building something the way that we think it should be built, a law firm and a process, because we've both been in trust and estates. She's practiced for 10 years in trust and estates, and I have for 13, like I said. So, we've seen a lot of things that we're like, ooh, over the years we talk shop, we're like, we could do that better, or what's going on with this? So it has been a lot of fun kind of putting our heads together and building it. And I think, I don't know that it's always a good idea to go into business with a friend. So I think my advice would be, if this is something that you are considering, really think about in life with that friend. How do you talk about things? How open are you? How do you kind of resolve conflict? Much like a marriage, like are your money, stories very, very different? Are you going to have issues with that? And her and I spent so many years talking about everything under the sun, always very open about our finances and everything. And so when we became not only friends, but business partners, it was very seamless. But I don't think that's just because we have a great friendship. That's a part of it. It's because we already knew that we worked together well on those sorts of things and that we were very transparent. Because the biggest concern is, you don't want to get into a huge fight with your close friend and then, not only lose your business, but also lose your friend, the relationship. Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Work Like a Mother podcast. Real quick, I just want to remind you guys, if you are worried about missing an episode, you don't have to worry anymore, because we are creating a weekly email that's going to go out automatically every single time there's a brand new episode. And this email is going to have everything you need to know about this week's featured guest. It's going to have all of the links and the resources that we're going to talk about in this episode. So you don't have to go around and fumble through the show notes, but it's going to be served in your inbox every single week. So if you guys want that access, be sure to click below one time in the show notes today, sign up for that email, and then you'll never have to worry about it in the future. And bonus, if you really love this, we'd love it if you share this with a friend Give us a review on whatever platform you're listening to, and we'll continue to bring new episodes and new information that's going to help you level up your life every single week. So what did you guys do as a partnership to kind of protect yourself? Like, okay, if we're going to break up, how does it go down? What did you do through that process?
Well, we have our operating agreement that kind of lays out, here's what we would do, how we would sell it, how we would value it. But we really haven't delved into it that much other than just legally protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
Even if some, one of us passed away, that's something that's always, of course, on our minds. Even if it wasn't some sort of disagreement, if it's just one of us passing. So having that in place, having buy-sell agreements and life insurance and things like that. So you're, let's say if I'll kill myself off, let's say I passed away, my husband's not a lawyer, I don't think he would want to run a law firm even if he was. So if I have life insurance, then my estate can buy out, that interest, and Kristen can take over the law firm, and Andrew can get, whatever money that the law firm is valued at that point in time. And I think it's also like just kind of, rather than be like, hey, what's going to happen? We've talked about that a little bit. I think it's more important to have like those check-ins, like, how's everything going? How are we feeling? Is there anything that isn't working? Let's chat about that. I mean, same, in a marriage, like you can't let things go on too long because then you explode and it's not healthy.
Yes. No, those are all great reminders. But I think so many of us, like, we're such visionaries, we kind of like glaze over the beginning process, the foundation. So we might you start a partnership and then not have all the paperwork ironed out. And you're just like assuming that it's done. And you didn't really even like cross your T's and check your I's. And then shit does hit the fan, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of businesses fail. We know this. And so it's just really like slowing down before you speed up. So I think absolutely like getting an actual lawyer, talking to a human, don't just do like the downloadable partner forms. Like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Is so good.
I mean, we meet with so many business owners and we're like, okay, can you send us your operating agreement or your shareholder agreement? They're like, huh?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you don't like 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, I would say, business owners. They're like,
that's
huh?
huge.
What's that? I don't know what that is.
I mean, even me, like, so I've never done a partnership, but I'm starting to get into like investment deals where we're going to like form an LLC per the investment, per the house, right? And so we do have to have, what happens if we break up? What happens if this deal's a flop? Where does the money go? Like, all that has to be ironed out. And I've never seen documents like this before in my life. So I'm just learning them now as I'm getting exposed to them. But it's so critical because things go sour sometimes, just.
And even for asset protection, not holding things in your individual names and protecting yourself and your family, to the greatest, and the business to the greatest extent possible.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to think, so pre-kids, like 4 or 5 years ago, what advice do you have for someone who is going to go through this transition? They're pregnant right now, they're getting ready, but they're still full gun career. What advice do you have for that woman?
Oh my God, how much time do we have?
Give me like 5 minutes.
I would say, I mean, for me, when I look back, I got pregnant in January of 2020. So when I look back to Lauren in January of 2020, I didn't have a lot of friends who had kids. So I really kind of like when I went into law school, I went into motherhood like very blind.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding, if you don't have I now luckily have a lot of friends who have kids through preschool and all of that. And my friends have had children since then. We've all kind of waited. Talk to people. Be like, what is it like to be pregnant? What is it like to give birth? What's your story? I think you need to talk about it, even though it can freak you out.
Yeah.
And how was it, being a mother in a very, the early stages, going back to the office? Did you have a maternity leave? How did that feel? How did you feel? I mean, I will be honest, when I first went back, I felt like my head was like in the clouds. Like I was like, what happened to my brain that was fully functioning 4 months ago? I was so foggy and just so not myself. And it took a really long time. And I didn't know that was normal. So I think much like talking about money is important among everyone, but especially women, talking about motherhood and like what it really is like, not the Instagram sugar coated, it's everything's so beautiful and look how clean my house is. No, the house behind that Instagram camera, it's a disaster because that's how your house is going to look. So I think just talking to people and finding a community is so important. And then, I mean, the reality is, depending on whether you work for yourself or you're in corporate, seeing what you can do as far as parental leave, what options, if you work
Yeah.
for a company, do they offer? What is that going to look like? Is it going to affect your compensation? I mean, I had that experience. I had
Yeah.
compensation affected, which threw me for a loop because I was not at all anticipating that.
Mm,
Um, and so I think trying to protect yourself as much as possible, getting the employee handbook, saying, okay, what exactly am I entitled to, if anything,
yeah.
I think is really important. And cutting yourself slack. I will say becoming a mom has made me a better human, a better lawyer, a better person just in general, but it also can be very, very challenging as well.
Oh yeah, physically, mentally, all the things. That's such good advice. And I think one of the things I didn't think about too was putting your child in childcare as an infant, right? So if you are
Mm,
going to go back to work, meaning like, okay, I'm going back to 68 hours a day minimum, because sometimes it can be more even when you go back. Number one,
yeah,
your body hasn't recovered fully yet. It takes about a year for a woman's body to reach like somewhat normalcy again. So giving yourself so much time.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
being able to say, I'm trusting a stranger to raise my child for this time because I am going to sacrifice. So I think just getting really, really clear on it so that you're not having to wrestle with the mom guilt. Like once you
yeah,
decide and we go all in, obviously things can change and you're testing the waters and seeing how your family reacts to them. But for a lot of women, I just hear like, I wish I could be stay-at-home mom. And I never thought I was going to be stay-at-home mom. And it's because I have this like natural craving to just be the parent.
yeah,
But you just got to get clear. Otherwise, you're going to just be living in like hell the first year trying to
yeah,
like wrestle that idea. So getting really, really clear on what's important in the season and having no regrets and then just live with it. Like, okay, if I'm committing to this career, that means I'm going to be the best damn mom at nights and weekends, and then I am going to hire the best person capable to take care of my child. But they become an extension of your family and treating that way, not just like the daycare drop off. Like, no, this is my family,
yeah.
so that you have
Mm,
trust and you can have that peace. Because I think it's so hard to find childcare. Also, the cost of
yeah.
childcare. Nobody talks about the cost of childcare.
So expensive. It's
Yeah.
very
And you're like,
expensive.
oh, it'll be fine. It's $500 a month. No, let's talk 2 to 3 grand a month. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
reality. So you're
I
right.
know.
Obviously, like paycheck might reduce and now costs might go up at the same time. So big lifestyle adjustment in those first couple of years are very, very
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And I didn't anticipate either. Like my husband was still working full time. He got 2 weeks off of leave. We were active duty military at the time with our son.
Mm,
And so, okay, 2 weeks goes by. I'm still bedridden basically at 2 weeks. And all of a sudden I'm
yep,
parenting by myself. And so just realizing
yeah.
life is probably not going to be rosy and peaches unless you set up those things in advance. Like don't wait to have the baby and then figure it out. So I learned a
So
lot
true.
with the first one. And then second one, we were very fortunate to be home. Mine was born January 2020. So that was
Oh,
helpful.
wow.
We were
Oh,
all home.
wow.
Yeah. But definitely so good. Such good advice. Is there anything I missed that you wanted to touch on?
Um, no, I mean, I think we talked about a lot. I think it was a really great conversation. I would just add, be really have a lot of grace with yourself, whether it's, damn, I haven't got to my estate planning yet, or, oh, I have this mom guilt, just be easy on yourself, be loving with
Yeah.
yourself, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend if she were coming to you and saying, I'm going through this, because you're doing a great job. If your kids have love and they have food and they have people around them who care about them, you're doing an amazing job. So all the other stuff, just let it go. I know that's
Yeah.
easier said than done, but we all just need to love ourselves, especially right now.
Absolutely. And finding that community, finding those people in the same season of life is so important so you don't feel so alone.
Hmm.
And I'm sure
Yeah,
same in the legal space. It's a very male dominated space still. So you've got to find your tribe. You have a
yeah.
little squad, right? Somehow, or do you have a community of women that you network with?
I do. Well, I'm very, very lucky. Since I started my own law firm, I found so many wonderful communities. But I also created a community called the Wealthy Lawyer Squad, specifically for new lawyers and law students, to kind of help through that crazy law school experience and those first few years of law practice. We do monthly yoga. I have a whole coaching program for them, and I'm actually coming out with a new course, Become a Wealthy Lawyer course that's going to be launching in the beginning of 2025, all about money mindset, all about strategies to build wealth. And I'm so excited. It's my favorite topic in the world. And like we all know, money really isn't just about money. It's about what's going on in here. So I'm very, very excited, but I love having that community. It's what I didn't have when I was in law school and for most of the years of law practice. So I'm very, very passionate about it. And it's fun to build that and see, where it's all going.
Yeah, so good. And I'm sure we'll have all of those links and descriptions in the episode descriptions so they can find you and follow you and sign up. So I end every episode with a fun rapid fire. So what is your Starbucks order?
Oh, lately a venti pecan crunch oat milk latte with only 2 pumps. We don't want it too sweet.
Same. Yeah, I'm always like half sweet. What do you make for dinner if it's last minute?
I don't make dinner. My husband cooks every single night. But last night he made shrimp pasta and it was fantastic.
Oh my gosh, what a dream. You picked a good one. My husband doesn't know how to cook anything except eggs.
My when I cook, it's me going to the Thai restaurant down the street.
Yeah, love it. What's your favorite department of Target, and do you have a favorite designer?
Man, I used to love just going to Target and wandering, and I feel like not that I couldn't do that, but it's like it's just not my favorite thing anymore. So if I'm going there, it's probably to go get like medicine for the kids, or like clothes for the kids, or because if I'm shopping, it's probably just Amazon. That's where I'm like chilling if I'm gonna shop. Yep. I used to love just like wander the whole store. But if I do have time and we're wandering, the little jewelry section, they have really cute stuff.
Yes, really totally. Do. Yes. I think they have like Bubble Bar. Is that what it's called? They have that over there. Yes. So good.
It's very cute.
Give us a book or a podcast you'd recommend and why.
I love, there's so many, but I love the book by Amanda Francis, Rich AF. She is one of the first life coaches I started following, and she was extremely instrumental in me figuring out all my money stuff. Big influence on everything that I'm doing. I just think she's fantastic, and I love watching her become a mom kind of at the same time that I did. It was very helpful for me. So I think that book is amazing. I try to read it every couple months if I can, or listen to it. It's
I was gonna say the audiobook of it is actually probably more entertaining because you get her voice and like the side tangents, and so it's really good. That's a good one for anyone's mindset. TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram.
Yeah. What is your Instagram?
Yeah. How do we find you? I'm an elder millennial, so At lawyer Lauren Klein.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was so good. I really hope to encourage people, especially for our lady lawyers, to find you, connect with you online, and just encourage everybody, get your estate planning tied up with a bow so we can sleep at night and we know our families are protected for the future. So important. And we'll be sure to stay in touch.
Sounds good, Marina. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah.